Welcome students to my class of mechanics. In this course, actually you will study the classical mechanics. So, these are my lecture notes. In these notes, I will try to give you certain concepts related to classical mechanics and will try to make this subject interesting. Classical mechanics is assumed to be a tough subject, but if you will be connected in all the lectures and you will relate the previous lecture to the next one, then it will be a very simple subject. So, first of all, after this course or in this course, what you will study is the concept of classical mechanics. Then we will see a brief history of mechanics. We'll study the mechanics of a particle and a system of particles. Next, we'll take conservation laws, where we will study conservation of linear momentum, conservation of angular momentum, and conservation of energy. And naturally, these conservation laws will be studied for a single particle as well as for a system of particles. Then we will study what do we mean by generalized coordinates, degree of freedom, and then we'll see what is the Lagrangian approach to solve the objects in classical mechanics. There is one approach given by Newton, which is known as Newtonian mechanics, which you have already studied, and then there is another approach which is given by Lagrange. So we will study what is that approach in this mechanics. Then we'll come to variational principle, where calculus of variation technique will be explained to find the motion of objects. Here we will study Hamilton's principle, which is a variational principle, and then we try to derive Lagrange's equations of motion with the help of Hamilton principle. Then Lagrangian formulation. Here we will find the Lagrange's equations of motion with the help of Hamilton's principle, and naturally its application to simple problems. Then we will study what is the approach given by Hamilton, which is known as Hamiltonian mechanics. Newton gave one approach, then Lagrange gave another approach, and finally Hamilton also gave an approach. So we will learn what is this approach to solve the motion, to find the motion of objects. Then we'll see what is canonical transformation, Poisson brackets, Lagrange bracket, and last is a theory, Hamilton-Jacobi theory, which is again an approach to find the solution of objects which are moving under classical mechanics. So for this course, I will like to refer two books. One is Classical Mechanics by Goldstein. Actually, it is the third edition of Classical Mechanics, in which there are three authors, Goldstein, Foullée, and Sefko. First and second editions are equally good, where there is only one author, Herbert Goldstein. So this is a base book for this course. Second one is Classical Mechanics by N.C. Rana and P.C. Jog. This is again a very good book. So these are the two books which I will refer for this course. Otherwise, topic wise, you will get a plenty of material on by searching through Google or any other browser. You can find these on internet. So first of all, we come to what is classical mechanics, or what are the basic concepts related to this mechanics, so that it is named as classical mechanics. First of all, uh, the question comes that what is mechanics? Actually, mechanics is the combination of physics and mathematics. Physics deals with the matter, with energy, and the interaction of matter with its environment. So, to deal with the matter, energy, and its interaction with the environment, mathematics works as a tool. It provides the laws which are governed, yeah, which governs the particle, its energy, and its interaction with the environment, and describes the behavior of object. So, practically, mathematics is a tool which helps to describe the laws which are applicable for the matters which are studied under physics. Now the question comes that what is matter? Everybody knows that every object is made of molecules, atoms, but if I talk about the particle in classical mechanics, then from classical perspective, a matter is something which is observable and which is distinguishable. I'll explain you that you can say that in classical mechanics, we consider those objects or which are considered as particle or which are made of, you can say simply which are considered as particle having certain characteristics. These particles or these objects may be rigid, these may be deformable. It simply means that these particles uh, may be rigid bodies, elastic bodies, and therefore may be fluid also. Further, these particles may be point-like or extendable. But the important thing is that if we extend a particle, then its extensions should not affect the motion of that object. Actually, in physics, a matter may be very small, a matter may be very large. Very small means it may be a fraction of a proton, and very large means it may be the universe itself. But when we study the classical mechanics, then our particle should be of the type that if we extend its dimensions, extension means compression, extension both. If we extend a particle, then its extensions should be irrelevant to the motion. It should not have any effect on the motion which we are going to study. I am giving you one example. Suppose you are considering the rotation of the earth or the revolution of the earth around the sun. And while studying this motion, earth's dimensions are irrelevant. They have no value. They will not be considered at all. So in this case, earth may be considered as a particle. Similarly, there may be the studies where even atom may be studied under classical mechanics. Naturally, there will be certain restrictions on it. But one more thing is that if the position of a particle is exact, as well as if momentum is constant, momentum is fixed, or you can say momentum is defined, then again that particle will come under classical mechanics. For example, the ball of a pool, billiard table. On the billiard table, the position of balls is exact, their projectile, they have an exact position, as well as their momentum is fixed. Their friction with the table is fixed. In that case, you may say that the size of the ball is important. Yes, it is true. The size of the ball is important, but still, if the size is extended or compressed, relatively its momentum, its friction will be adjusted. So that ball movement of that ball may also be considered under classical mechanics. So it is also another condition. So the main thing is that the particle which is considered under classical mechanics have no dimensions. Practically it is having the dimension, but we consider as if it is having no dimensions. So this is the certain characteristics of an object which may be studied under classical mechanics. But before going to that, I will like to tell you that what are the branches of mechanics, main branches of mechanics. You know that mechanics basically have two branches. One is statics and another is dynamics. Now what we study under statics? This is very common concept, but still I will like to revive these concepts. Under statics, we study those bodies which are at rest. So here the body should be at rest. Bodies at rest. Or in statics, the forces are in equilibrium. This is another condition. Forces are in equilibrium. So it is a system where momentum does not change. So bodies are at rest, forces are in equilibrium, and momentum does not change. The next thing is that it is the study of external and internal forces on a structure, because it is the study of those objects which are at rest. So you can say it is the study of bridges, machines, buildings. So this branch is very important to find what is the behavior of forces on the interacting point of the structural elements. There will be the joints on the bridges, joints in the bridges, there will be joints in the machines. That means there will be the interacting points. So what is the effect of forces on those interacting point of a structure is an important area of statics. So this is a very important part of mechanics, which basically deals with the structures. Now we come to dynamics. As statics is the study of those bodies which are at rest, dynamics is the study of those bodies which are at motion. So bodies which are in motion. Bodies in motion. Now naturally, if a body is in motion, motion is the consequence of some cause. There will be some cause. Uh, whose effect is that body starts to move. Or you can say if a body is in motion then and comes to rest, there will be some cause. So dynamics is again Dynamics is the study of cause and effect. What is the cause? Naturally, cause will be a force. And what is the effect? Effect is the motion. So this dynamics is again divided into two parts. One is kinetics, another is kinematics. So kinetics studies about the force. That means it is the study of why the motion. Okay. So it is about the explanation of motion. It explains the motion. If you look at Newton's laws, you see the first law says that if an object is at rest, it will remain at rest. If it is in motion, it will remain in motion with a constant speed unless and until some external force is applied on it. So you see, Newton law talks about the force. If you see the second law also says the rate of change of momentum is equal to the total forces. That means momentum is governed by force. So that law also talks about the force. In third law, it says that for every action is due to force. There is an equal and opposite reaction. So reaction is again a force. So this law also talks about the force. So these are the laws which are studied under kinetics. Now if I talk about the kinematics, then in kinematics we study the answer of how. That means what type of motion is there. So it is the explanation of motion and it is the description of motion. It is the description of motion. In kinematics, we study what are the types of motion. If I come to Kepler's law, you look at the Kepler's first law, it says that if this is a planet, it is the orbit traced by the planet. It is the orbit. This is the orbit traced by the planet. So this is an elliptical orbit. This was told by Kepler. So Kepler is not talking about what is the reason of this orbit, of describing the of the orbit described by the object. Rather, it is talking about the description, that what type of path will be described by an object. Similarly, if you look at the second law, it says a line joining the sun and a planet sweeps out equal areas in equal times. It says that if I draw a line from sun to the planet, then in a time interval, in a time duration, if it describes this area, then in the same interval, if I take any of the line and I find what is the area described by it, then the area of this one and this one will be same. So again, it is not talking about force, rather it is talking about the area of the sections described by a line joining the sun to the planet in one same duration. If you look at the third law is again not talking about the force. The square of a planet's orbit period is proportional to the cube of semi-major axis of its orbit. You know that sun is Kepler said that sun is at one of the foci of this elliptical orbit, And then this law is not again talking about any force. Similarly, you see at the Galileo's law of falling bodies. This law says that a falling body accelerates uniformly. This is again not talking about force. So these are certain laws which we study under kinematics. So this is the combination. Dynamics is the combination of kinetics and kinematics. Still, you may find some material where dynamics is also said to be known as kinematics. Simply, in this mechanics, in classical mechanics, we study the statics as well as the dynamics. That means the bodies which are at rest and the bodies which are in motion. So, as I told you earlier about the particle, that what type of particle will be considered in classical mechanics. So again, we are coming to the topic classical mechanics, that why this mechanics is called classical. So as I told you earlier, in this mechanics, your particle should have certain characteristics. The first characteristic is that the particle may be point-like, the particle may be extendable. The second thing is that if extensions are considered, then these are irrelevant to motion. These will not affect the motion of the particle. The second thing is that particle has the exact position and momentum. And one more thing is that if we consider a particle, then every particle has mass and charge. Now, if particle is extended, then naturally the distribution of mass is important. Suppose it is your particle and now you are extended it, then distribution of mass will be important. And as the distribution of mass is important, that simply means that moment of inertia is important. What is inertia, by the way? Inertia is the inertness of you, or you can say the quality of a particle, the characteristic inner quality of an object which maintains its state, which helps in maintaining its state. Suppose a particle is at rest, some force is applied to it. If the particle, this is the strength of the particle which will try to maintain its state of rest. So this strength of the particle is its inertia. Suppose somebody gives you a push, then your body will give a reaction and your body will try to maintain your position. So that characteristic of your body or that energy of your body which is trying to maintain your state is your inertia. So here the moment of inertia is important, simply means that spinning is also important. So in classical mechanics, spinning and movement of inertia are inseparable. It simply means when you are considering the motion of an atom, in an atom its spinning is very important, its movement of inertia separately is very important. But in classical mechanics we do not separate them, we consider them as single entity, and spinning and movement of inertia are inseparable. This is again next characteristic of the particle. So now you have a particle defined in classical mechanics, and that particle is having a mass, that particle is having a charge. Now the second thing is that you want to describe the position of a particle, or you want to describe the motion of a particle. Naturally, if you want to describe the motion of a particle, your particle will have certain position, or you need an entity where you can say that your particle is at this point. So to describe the position of a particle, you need some entity. And what is that entity? That entity is taken as space. You can just imagine an space space has no ontological status. You cannot touch or see the space. Rather, it is an imaginary entity. And the concept of space is very important to describe the motion, because uh, if you want to give the position to a particle, you need the concept of space. If you want to find what is the distance between two particles, again you need a space. If you say your object is made up of different particles, that means it is a combination of a system of particles, then to give the position to those particles, again you need space. So basically, space uh, is is a concept which is required to describe the motion of a particle. So it is an entity. Secondly, it is an entity which is having no ontological status. Secondly, when you say that we want to describe the motion of a particle, that simply means your particle is having some position at it in the space, and after some time that is having some another position. So you see, I am using the concept of time. Actually, you have an organization. In that organization, you have one space and a particle. Suppose particle is changing its position under the same substratum. The same space is there. So naturally that organization will change. So to describe the change in the organization, you need another entity, and that entity is time. Now again, time cannot be seen, time cannot be touched. So time is again an entity having no ontological status. Now if I want to describe the time, in olden days the motion of planets was observed, a lot of mechanics was done, and then at that time there was no concept of physical clock. Rather, they used the shadow clocks, the sand clocks, the glass clocks, the water clocks, and such type of clocks were used. If you have gone, any of you have gone to Konark temple, there you can see there is the sun clock, and they explain how that sun clock was used in olden days to tell that how many days are there, how they define the year, how they define the day, how they define the motion of the planet, the rising of the sun, the setting of the sun, and many other concepts related to mechanics. But in Newton's mechanics, or you can say in classical mechanics, your time is described by physical clock, which clock you use these days. And you can say there is a one-to-one correspondence between the path described by the particle and the cursory position of the arm of the clock, which is the second, which is the arm which indicates the second. You have seen there are three arms in the clock: hours arm, then minutes arm, and seconds arm. So you can say there is a one-to-one correspondence. For example, you want to say at this instant, what is the position? It simply means at the cursory position of that arm of second, where is the particle? So you are seeing that in this concept, we are also talking about the continuity of the path described by the object. Suppose you say that at this time the particle is here. This is the second arm, which is describing a path in a clock, and it has a one-to-one correspondence with the position of the particle. It simply means that at every instant of time, particle is somewhere in the space, and if you join those points, you will get a continuous path described by the space. So here continuity of the path is also an important criteria in classical mechanics. But if I am describing this path, naturally I have to give the position. I have to give this position. I have to give this position. So to give this type of positions, I need a frame of reference. Who will see the position? Some observer, and that observer is maybe you, maybe me, or maybe any object. So what we say that there is some impersonalized observer, which is nothing but the frame of reference. So it is a coordinate system, and we consider this reference system in the Euclidean space, three-dimensional Euclidean space. With the help of this frame of reference, you can very well give the position. Suppose I am talking about the three-dimensional Euclidean space and it is a Cartesian coordinate system. I can simply say that if I say that the position of the particle is suppose S naught, then what is that S naught? S naught means a coordinate system. Under a coordinate system, the position of the particle may be X naught, Y naught, Z naught. It will have a triad where X naught, Y naught, Z naught are giving the position of the particle. So in this way, when I am saying that particle is moving in the space, it simply means I can give a position, a measurable position, which can be measured in the Euclidean space. So we need a frame of reference. So now I need a particle, I need space, I need time, and I need a frame of reference. Now what type of frame of reference should be? When we study Newtonian mechanics, or you can say simply mechanics, then our frame of reference should be inertial frame of reference. What do we mean by inertial frame of reference? It is also called Galilean frame of reference, Newtonian frame of reference, or inertial frame of reference. These are either these are the frame of references which either stand still, or if they are moving, then they are moving with some constant velocity. For example, if I want to consider the motion of a train with respect to a moving car, then naturally car is moving, train is moving. But the condition it is that if you are observing the motion of the train from the car, that car is the frame of reference, and that car should move with the relative velocity of the train. Okay? Or if I am talking about the speed of the car only, train is moving at the constant speed, that car has to be moved at the constant speed, then only that may become the inertial frame of reference. The second thing is that law of inertia should hold in the frame of reference. What are the law of inertia? I'll mention only the first law of Newton. Newton says that a body which is at rest will remain at rest, and if it is in motion, it will remain in motion with the same speed unless and until some force is applied on it. So the motion of the objects which satisfies this condition, this law, may be in a frame of reference. That frame of reference will be known as inertial frame of reference. And the last thing is that frame of reference should not be a rotatory body. And if it is rotatory, then its rotation should not have effect on the basic motion of the particle, of the object. Because we are concerned with the motion of the object. And suppose your frame of reference is rotating. For example, you have established a lab on the earth. The earth is rotating, but still you are not considering its rotation, because whatever motion are you considering is unaffected by the motion, by the rotation of the earth. So earth may be referred as inertial frame of reference. There may be some other study where the rotation of the earth is also very important. So in that case, Newton's laws will not be applicable, or that type of motion may not be studied under classical mechanics. So in this mechanics, your frame of reference should be inertial frame of reference. This is very important aspect, and you should be very clear that which type of frames are called the inertial frame of reference. And all other frames in which these conditions are not satisfied are called non-inertial frame of reference. So finally, we can say that in classical mechanics, we study the motion of an object, motion of a particle, which may be point-like, which may be extendable, but it is dimensionless. It may be considered as dimensionless. It moves, it has a history in an inertial frame of reference. Rather, it describes a continuous history. It describes a continuous path in an inertial frame of reference. And uh, the particle the particle describes a continuous path. Its dimensions are irrelevant. That type of study comes under classical mechanics. So this is all about the introduction of classical mechanics, and you should make small notes related to the concepts which I have introduced, so that we can have a discussion on it, and if you have any query, then we will discuss it in our live class. So thank you so much. This is all about it.